The PS2 era delivered some of the greatest JRPGs ever made, but many incredible titles got buried under the hype of Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. Today, I'm counting down 12 forgotten PS2 JRPGs that deserve modern remasters. These aren't your mainstream classics. These are the cult favorites with dedicated fan bases, innovative mechanics that were ahead of their time, and gameplay systems that modern gaming has only recently caught up to. Let's get into it.
Starting strong with Shadow Heart's Covenant, and honestly, this game is gothic horror meets World War I meets a flamboyant vampire wrestler named Joachim who fights with frozen tuna. I'm not kidding. The vibe here is absolutely unhinged. You've got Rasputin as a villain, you're hanging out with Anastasia Romanov, and the whole thing feels like someone adapted a Lovecraft novel but decided to throw in slapstick comedy every 15 minutes. It shouldn't work, but it does. The hook is the Judgment Ring, and this is one of the most satisfying combat systems ever designed. Every single action in combat, attacks, magic, items, triggers this spinning radar wheel. You have to hit the button as the needle sweeps through colored zones. But here's where it gets spicy. There are narrow red strike areas at the end of each zone that give you massive damage bonuses if you nail the timing. It's pure skill-based combat in a turn-based JRPG. You can customize the ring to make it easier or harder, and there's this sanity point system where your characters literally go insane if battles drag on too long, forcing you to play aggressively instead of turtling. Why it needs a remaster? The pre-rendered backgrounds would look gorgeous with AI upscaling. Add a turbo mode for the slower PS2 animations, bump up those character models to HD, and you've got a game that would absolutely kill with the Persona and SMT crowd. Plus, Universal Entertainment renewed the trademark in 2022, sparking speculation about the series' future, while nothing has materialized yet. The renewed IP protection keeps hope alive for fans who've been waiting decades for this gothic masterpiece to return.
Let's talk about the game that was 15 years ahead of its time, Dragon Quarter. This thing shifted the entire Breath of Fire formula from high fantasy to subterranean sci-fi survival, and it basically invented the roguelite narrative loop before roguelites were even a thing. Here's the genius. You've got a percentage counter on screen, the D counter. It represents the dragon gene that's slowly killing your protagonist, Ryu. Using powerful dragon abilities increases it. Walking increases it. If it hits 100%, game over. This created genuine survival horror tension in a JRPG. Every decision matters because you're literally racing against death. But here's where it gets wild. The SOL system, Scenario Overlay. When you restart, you carry over your party XP, skills, and items to a new save file. But the narrative overlay changes. New cutscenes unlock, your D ratio ranking improves, and previously locked doors open. It's not a punishment for failure, it's a core mechanic. You're supposed to restart multiple times to see the full story and unlock everything. This is Hades. This is Returnal. This is modern roguelite design from 2002. Why it needs a remaster? In 2002, people called it punishing. In 2026, we call it Souls-like. The market has completely caught up to Dragon Quarter's vision. Remaster this, market it as a roguelite narrative RPG, and watch it find the massive audience it always deserved. Radiata Stories is what happens when Tri-Ace decides to make a living, breathing world simulator disguised as a JRPG. There are 177 recruitable characters in this game, and unlike other games where NPCs just stand around waiting for you, every single one of them has a 24-hour schedule. They wake up, go to work, eat lunch, visit friends, sleep. The world exists whether you're there or not. The hook here is that recruitment isn't just talk to person, they join. You have to stalk these NPCs, learn their routines, figure out when they're vulnerable to recruitment. Some characters can only be recruited at 3 a.m. when they're drunk at a bar. Others require you to interrupt them at work or help them with personal problems. It creates this detective game layer on top of the RPG. And then there's the kick mechanic.
You can kick almost anything: furniture, chests, NPCs. Kicking an NPC starts a duel, which you can use for recruitment or just pure chaos. It's absurd and hilarious and weirdly integral to how you interact with the world. Why it needs a remaster? The cel-shaded art style is completely timeless. It just needs an HD bump. The living world concept would resonate massively with modern open world fans who are used to games like Red Dead 2, where NPCs have routines. Yeah, the combat's simple, but that's almost a feature. The recruitment and world simulation are the real game. This would be perfect for Switch 2 or Steam Deck.
Xenosaga Episode 3, also Sprach Zarathustra, is the finale of a truncated epic, and it's genuinely one of the best JRPGs ever made. The series was supposed to be 6 games, but got cut to 3, and Episode 3 had to carry the entire narrative weight. And you know what? It delivered. The combat system is shockingly modern. The break gauge system basically invented what Final Fantasy XIII and FF7 Remake would later call the stagger mechanic. You deplete an enemy's gauge with multi-hit combos, and once it's empty, they're immobilized and take massive damage. It encourages aggressive, strategic play instead of just chipping away at HP bars. Then there's the boost system, where you can store charges to interrupt turn order. This is critical for boss battles. You can heal right before a devastating attack or chain offensive moves while an enemy is broken. It's resource management layered on top of tactical combat, and it feels genuinely ahead of its time. Why it needs a remaster? Here's the thing. Monolith Soft's Xenoblade Chronicles has now sold over 7 million units. There's a massive, hungry audience that wants to experience Tetsuya Takahashi's earlier work. A Xenosaga Trilogy Collection is literally one of the most requested remasters in the JRPG community. The English version of Episode 3 is rare and expensive. Secondary market prices are over $200. The demand is there, the audience is there, and honestly, after Xenoblade's success, this feels inevitable.
Steambot Chronicles is a cozy mech sandbox RPG, and I need you to understand how wild that combination is. This game lets you pilot steam-powered mechs called Trotmobiles, but you're not just using them for combat. You can equip flatbed legs to haul cargo for trade missions. You can attach grills to cook food. The controls use both analog sticks to simulate tank tread movement, giving the mechs this weighty, clunky feel that's strangely satisfying. But here's where it gets incredible. You can choose your entire career path. Be a hero, be a villain, be a traitor, or be a musician. The concert system is a fully fleshed rhythm game where you perform in bars or on street corners to earn money. You can form a band, recruit NPCs to play different instruments, and build a whole musical career if you want. Or you can just fight crime in your Steam mech. It's completely up to you. Why it needs a remaster? The cozy game genre is absolutely booming right now. Steambot Chronicles offers Stardew Valley vibes mixed with mech customization, which is a completely untapped niche. The original had frame rate issues and the tank controls were divisive, but both of those are easy fixes. Tighten the controls, bump the frame rate to 60 FPS, and you've got a game that would be perfect for the modern indie scene. Complete copies regularly sell for $200 to $275 on the secondary market, demonstrating sustained collector demand despite the game's commercial failure at launch.
Valkyrie Profile 2 Silmeria is a technical masterpiece that pushed the PS2 way beyond what it was supposed to be capable of. The visual fidelity was so high that it actually causes issues on modern emulators. Ghosting, texture misalignment, all kinds of problems. This needs a proper source code remaster. The combat system is this insane hybrid of real-time movement and turn-based execution. You move freely in a 3D arena, and movement consumes AP. When you attack, the game shifts to an execution phase, where each button corresponds to a character, letting you juggle enemies with perfectly timed combos. But then there's the body part system. Enemies have specific hit zones like weapon arms, tails, and heads. Breaking these parts disable enemy attacks or drop rare crafting materials. To hit a dragon's tail,
You might have to run through its breath attack zone, risking damage for tactical advantage. It's geometry-based strategy. And in dungeons, there's photon action. You shoot photons to freeze enemies in crystal, then jump on them or swap places with them. The dungeons are basically puzzle platformers layered on top of the combat RPG. Why it needs a remaster? The complexity fits perfectly with the modern hardcore RPG audience that loves Shin Megami Tensei and tactical depth. Bring this to 4K, fix the technical issues, and you've got a game that would appeal to the exact crowd that's currently starving for innovative combat systems.
Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2. Digital Devil Saga is the Atlas duology that got overshadowed by Persona, but it deserves so much better. While Persona 3 and 4 became global phenomena, DDS remained a cult favorite with one of the darkest, most mature sci-fi stories Atlas has ever written. The combat uses the iconic press turn system that SMT fans love, but it adds the devour mechanic. There's no demon fusion here. Instead, characters upgrade through the mantra grid. To unlock skills, you need Atma, and the most efficient way to get it is to literally eat enemies when their health is low. This ties directly into the narrative theme of characters awakening to emotions through consumption. If a character eats too much, they get a stomachache, an actual status ailment. It's a risk-reward cannibalism as a game mechanic. Why it needs a remaster? Persona fans wait years between releases. DDS offers the same press-turn combat they love, but with a darker, more philosophical sci-fi narrative instead of high school social sim. A bundle of both games would sell incredibly well to the massive Persona audience that's hungry for more Atlas content between mainline releases.
Untitled 2 is the best game in its trilogy, but the Western release is infamous for the Rocky Bug, a game-crashing glitch that happens when a specific boss uses certain attacks, making optional content literally impossible without workarounds. It also had localization issues. Basically, this game desperately needs a remaster just to fix the code and make it playable. But beyond the bugs, the game itself is fascinating. The Cosmosphere system has you diving into the subconscious minds of the heroines. These play out as visual novel segments where you navigate trauma and insecurities, and clearing levels unlock new song magic for battle. It's therapy sessions as a progression system. In combat, there's a rhythm defense layer. The Ravatail sings in the back row to charge magic, but enemies attack her. You use Vanguard characters to block attacks by pressing buttons in time with enemy assaults. It's a rhythm game on top of turn-based combat. Why it needs a remaster? A proper release with fixed bugs and revised localization would finally let people experience the intricate world-building and incredible music that Untitled is known for. The concept is unique enough that it would stand out in today's market.
Game 9, Monachemia, Alchemists of Al Revis. Monachemia is basically the Magic School JRPG that predated Persona 5 and Fire Emblem Three Houses by a decade. It's a spin-off of the Atelier series that goes all in on the Academy setting, and it's got some genuinely innovative progression systems. Characters don't level up via XP. Instead, they gain AP, and to spend it, you unlock nodes in their Grow Book by synthesizing specific items. This forces you to engage with the alchemy system to get stronger. You can't just grind monsters to beat a boss. If you haven't crafted the requisite gear, you're stuck. It makes crafting mandatory instead of optional, which is brilliant design. The combat features tag team switching. Active party members can jump in mid-combo, attack, then switch out to regenerate SP. It creates this fast, frantic flow where you're constantly rotating characters. Why it needs a remaster? With the academic calendar RPG structure now popularized by modern hits, Monachemia is perfectly positioned for rediscovery. The alchemy-focused progression would appeal to the crafting-obsessed crowd, and the school setting hits that sweet spot of cozy JRPG vibes.
Wild Arms 5 represents the peak of the series' combat design with the XHS system. The battlefield is divided into 7 hexes, 1 center, 6 surrounding. Characters and enemies occupy these hexes, and attacks affect specific patterns. Some spells hit all enemies in a straight line, others hit the surrounding ring. It's positional strategy that feels completely different from standard grid-based SRPGs. Then there are lay points. Hexes have elemental properties that can be manipulated. Moving to a fire lay point boosts fire magic, but makes you vulnerable to water. The strategy revolves around controlling the center hex to dictate enemy movement options. Why it needs a remaster? The Weird West setting is criminally underutilized in gaming. The cel-shaded visuals hold up incredibly well, and the XHS system offers tactical depth that's distinct from Fire Emblem or Final Fantasy Tactics. This would appeal to the strategy RPG crowd looking for something fresh.
Game 11, Grandia 3. Grandia 3 is famous for having incredible combat and a story that, let's say, doesn't stick the landing. But that combat system, it's genuinely one of the best turn-based systems ever made. The ultimate action system lets you cancel enemy turns by hitting them during their preparation phase, which returning players will recognize. But Grandia 3 added aerial juggling. You can launch enemies into the air and chain attacks while they're airborne for massive damage. It feels like a fighting game implemented within a turn-based menu system. Combo optimization is absurdly satisfying. Why it needs a remaster? Despite narrative issues, the combat is so good that people still talk about it as the series' high point. A remaster that adds a boss rush mode or harder difficulty settings would appeal to combat optimizers. Sometimes you don't need a perfect story when the gameplay is this tight.
Closing out with Ring of Red, which is an alternate history tactical RPG where Japan was split between the US and USSR, leading to a mech-fueled Cold War in the 1960s. It's diesel-punk tactical noir, and the aesthetic is incredible. The hybrid battle system is wild. You move on a grid, but when two units engage, the camera shifts to ground level. You control an AFW mech and 3 infantry squads in real time. The mech takes time to load shells, so while it's loading, you command infantry to suppress enemies, repair the mech's legs, or spot targets. Accuracy increases the longer you wait to fire, creating tension between firing now at low accuracy or waiting and risking damage. Why it needs a remaster? The gritty, grounded aesthetic stands out massively in a genre dominated by fantasy. The original had localization issues and sluggish animations, both easy fixes. The concept, Cold War Japan with mechs, is just begging for a modern audience to discover it. So there you have it, 12 PS2 JRPGs that absolutely deserve modern remasters. From gothic horror with rhythm combat, to cozy mech sandboxes, to roguelite survival horror from 2002, these games were experimenting with ideas that modern gaming is only now catching up to. The demand is there. Just look at those secondary market prices. Publishers are sitting on gold mines. Let me know in the comments which of these you'd want to see remastered first. And if I missed any of your favorites, drop those too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.